We are the 2015s. Do you know why we call ourselves 2015s? That's because we got to know Native American culture in the year 2015, and we have decided that from now on, we'll be more conscious of Native American issues. We got our name from the 1491s, which is a Native American sketch comedy group, by studying about Native American culture. In our video, we're going to focus on the power and the influence of the 1491's comedy, both on Native and non-Native American culture. Before we start our project, although we know the 1491s prefer using the term American Indian to Native American, we, as non-Native Americans, are going to use the politically correct term Native American. Like we've said, the 1491s is a comedy group. But what is comedy? Although we do not exactly know the origin of the word comedy, the word came from Greek word komoidia, meaning an amusing spectacle. However, since then, the meaning has been changed over the times. And in the Middle Ages, comedy became more literary and romantic in tone. With the advent of Renaissance, the Elizabethan comedy emerged in England, which reached its highest expression in the plays of Shakespeare. In the Industrial Age, comedy became more sophisticated. At the same time, the musical comedy began to emerge. Vaudeville particularly, which is derived from the French expression voix de ville, meaning city voice, was gaining its popularity after the Civil War. And with the advent of silent films and TV, it became popularized. After then, with the development and commercialization of TV, all sorts of television comedy series, such as Seinfeld and The Simpsons, became popular. In addition to slapstick and vaudeville, there are many different forms of comedies. In the history of comedy, different types of comedies have emerged. The types of comedy that we can see in the videos of the 1491s is a satirical comedy and also a sketch comedy, which has its origin in musical comedy and especially in vaudeville. Although there was a change in the style and contents, the basic functions of comedy has not been changed. We think that there are three major functions in comedy. A. It relieves dissatisfactions from the underprivileged people in the society. B. It consolidates the group members who can share the laughter. And C. It can outspokenly criticizes injustice in society. But there is a possibility that through the function A, people conform to the ideology of the dominant discourse. Therefore, we think that the function B and C are more valuable than function A because we think that these two functions have an incredible potential for social changes. The 1491s cleverly uses these functions to shift American consciousness on Native American culture. Then, why do they want to change the American consciousness on Native Americans? What kind of thoughts do modern Americans have on Native Americans? We can find the answer through the tortured history of Native Americans. The history begins in 1492, when Christopher Columbus discovered America. After then, many Europeans came to America, bringing diseases such as yellow fever, smallpox, and measles to Native Americans. As a result, the numbers of Native Americans fell from 80 million to less than 1 million in 500 years. In 1614, the Mayflower arrived at Plymouth to found first colony in New England. And after then, many Native American tribes had to fight for their land against the scheme of white immigrants. But many of the tribes lost war against the whites and had to be removed from their own land. The whites, however, were not satisfied with just taking the Native American land. In 1864, they massacred and mutilated about 70 Native Americans, which is well known as Sand Creek Massacre. It didn't stop there. When gold was discovered in the Black Hills, white Americans occupied the Black Hills, going against their promise to Native Americans that the government will exempt the Black Hills from all white settlement. Not only that, they kidnapped Native American children from their family and put them into the Indian boarding school to kill the Indian and save the man, according to their words. And then, in 1890, there was the Wounded Knee Massacre in South Dakota, killing almost 300 Native Americans. these kinds of torture continued throughout the century. Today, after all of these years, Native Americans are haunted by this historical trauma because they are not given the proper compensation and apology from the government, and because they are living in a very poor condition. For them, it's an ongoing issue. They are still discriminated in American society. Modern Americans, who are strongly influenced by the media, still have stereotypes of Native Americans. Also, life in reservation is not easy. As we said, they are living in a poor condition. The crime rates are high, the environment is contaminated by the various government policy, and they suffer from alcoholism. From this, we can see that their sufferings have not ended yet. They are still very much affected by their sad history. In order to get out of their traumatic history, Native Americans express their thoughts on the various issues through artistic activities. The 1491s also expresses their opinions through comedy in that way. Before we see what they're trying to say, we thought that the meaning of their group name and symbol are important. First of all, the group name reminds Native Americans of the years before Columbus landed America, when Native Americans were flourishing. The population of Native Americans were almost the same as the population of Europe at that time. By naming their group 1491s, we thought that they are trying to raise self-awareness and self-esteem among Native Americans. Also, we thought that the meaning of the symbol suggests their purpose of comedy. The returning arrow in the symbol implies that the direction of comedy is not only toward non-Native, but Native Americans too. The 5 members of 1491s are from different tribes raising their own tribal voices. Dallas Goldtooth is Dakota, Sterling Harjo is Seminole, Migsy Pensona is Ponca, Ryan Redcorn is Osage, and Bobby Wilson is Sisseton Wahpeton, Dakota. Although they came from different tribes, what they're trying to do is to raise the public consciousness on Native American issues with one voice. Interesting thing is that their satire and criticism is not only toward non-Native Americans, but also toward Native Americans. They don't just say that all whites are bad or all Native Americans are good. They're making fun of everybody, regardless of their skin colors, who still has stereotypes on Native Americans and who doesn't care about how Native Americans are treated in American society. So we've analyzed some of their most popular videos according to these 2 categories, a satire on Native Americans and on non-Native Americans. And we'll begin with the satire on Native Americans. Firstly, we have a video titled Indian Store. In the video, there are 2 modern Native American men who look no different with modern white American men. They use iPhone, they wear t-shirts and hoodies with a fedora on one of the men's head, and enter their store with coffee in their hands. But they run a store full of items that fit perfectly to stereotypes of Native Americans. And the minute they opened their store, they took off their clothes and let down their hairs, with one of them playing Stoic Indian and the other playing Mystical Indian. Here, the 1491s is making fun of the commercialization of Native American culture and the Native Americans themselves, who are trying to make a living by living off the stereotypes of Native Americans. The satire gets clearer when a Native elder enters the store and asks for Native books about tribal laws, sovereignty, and history of colonization. When the man asks for the information on this real history of Native Americans, the 2 owners say that they do have those books and recommend coyote stories, saying that they have books about spirituality and Mother Earth, which can only prevent people from seeing an actual history. Next, we have the video titled Slapping Medicine Men. Native American medicine men is a spiritual leader in their culture. In this video clip, he kind of gives advice to visitors in his own way, which is by slapping them. When the Native American visitor worries about his life because he's unemployed and he cannot stop drinking, the medicine man slaps the visitor's face instead of giving him good advice. From this, we can see what the 1491 is trying to say. The 1491 is saying that Native Americans should also be responsible to the problems like alcoholism, poverty, with unemployment. They are saying that Native Americans themselves should face the reality show their willingness to solve the problem, and keep their mind clear, especially when things are going rough like this. In the next video, titled New Moon Wolf Pack Edition, the 1491s reminds Native Americans of their responsibility to fight back against the prejudice upon them. In the video, Hollywood movie director, who is also a Native American, wants an actor who can do sexy Native American character Wolf in his movie, New Moon. So 4 Native Americans are here to audition. They're so desperate to be in the movie that they themselves are willing to do any stereotypical descriptions of Native Americans. They don't know what the problem is, though. Probably the most racist moment in the video is the part where the director dismisses the Native American with darker skin,
we can see one more.
because he thought the man looked like an African.
You are Indian, right? You're Native American.
Now we'll move on to the satire on non-Native Americans. We'll first start with a video titled Represent. Actually, there are a bunch of videos titled Represent, and this is just one of them. So we can see that it's a kind of a series of movement that is related to some representation. This video starts with a Native American song as the background music, and a college student walks in dancing, listening to her iPod. She's enjoying the music, and suddenly the background music stops. Because we cannot listen to the music anymore, we can only see the girl dancing according to what she's listening through her earphones, which is something that we can see a lot in campus. This shows how the Native American girl is having fun and staying true to her culture in one of the most prestigious schools in the country. We thought through this video, the 1491 wanted to show that Native Americans also live in the modern life, doing the modern things, but still respecting their own heritage. Our next video is titled Hunting. In the video, the 1491s makes fun of the Native American stereotypes built in Hollywood. The 2 men in the video are half naked, talking in their native tongue. This is how Native Americans are usually portrayed in Hollywood films. One of the men offers the other men to teach how to hunt. When they start to run, you can hear the theme song of the Hollywood movie The Last of the Mohicans as a background music. Through this, the 1491s criticizes how The Last of the Mohicans portrayed Native Americans in a stereotypical way. We can also see that after the long scene of running with that background music, the last place they reach is a fast food restaurant, and that's when they speak in English, which also shows that Native Americans are actually not that different from the modern Americans. Lastly, this is a video titled I'm an Indian Too, which is the same title with the beloved musical number from And You Get Your Gun, a very racist musical which portrays Native Americans stereotypically. In their video, the 1491s cleverly laughs back at ignorant people who do not know the stereotypical descriptions of Native Americans in the musical are wrong. The video starts with a white man who is a hipster wearing fake Native American headdresses and clothes. Viewers instantly realize how stupid and wrong this man is. Then the video shows all kinds of stereotypical descriptions of Native Americans in mainstream culture, and show modern Native Americans who are dressed not different with the modern white Americans. Even though there are many people who disagree with their way of comedy, and there are people who are even offended, we think that their comedy is very effective because they are successful in drawing the attention of not only Native Americans, but also non-Native Americans. We also think that this kind of comedy can be applied to dealing with any kinds of injustice all over the world.
What are you doing?